No, I don't. I would like to start over. What I want to do is, I want to I wanted it to be more grit. I want it to be more foundational Black American. So let's set the scene. Segregation continued to go on. Let's start it directly in that point because I do not know the year that segregation ended. But whatever that year is, let's start it from that point and let's take it. The time frame will be a year. Let's get a family, a couple families, and let's intertwine them together and show how they they was able to gain states, and they ended up getting half of the United States was just black, and then the other side was uh was white. So it'd be more realistic if we have the East Coast, the whites, because that's where they came to, and then let's do the West Coast and the South is where the black people got. And let's give them a conflict. The conflict would be um, Mexico. They had to fight Mexico. Mexico had to fight both sides. They had to fight the blacks for California and Texas, and they had to fight the whites for Florida and something else. I don't know. We got to give them a conflict. The conflict is going to be instead of the Alamo and all of those shit. It flips. So this is a new world, an alternate world, and it has to have a lot of cursing words because it had to be gritty and urban for black people, foundation of black Americans. So tell me how you would start this off and give me the middle and the end and give me the whole story.
That's an ambitious and powerful concept. Your vision for a foundationally Black American narrative set in an alternate history where segregation continued, and families navigate a divided country is full of potential for conflict, resilience, and cultural exploration. Here's a more detailed outline based on your ideas. Title: Divided Frontiers. Genre: Alternate History Action Drama. Logline: In a reimagined America where segregation persisted, foundational black families on the West and South coalesced to reclaim territory from a fragmented nation, leading to an explosive conflict with both competing white states and an aggressive Mexico. Setting: Time frame: set in the early 1960s, right at the height of the civil rights movement but diverging into a world where the U.S. remains strictly segregated. Geography: East Coast, predominantly white states. Major cities like New York and Washington, D.C. form the stronghold of white power. West Coast and South, dominated by black communities, who have formed their own socio-political structures and economies. Act 1. The Foundations of a New Nation. Introduce families and characters. The Johnsons, a hardworking family running a successful business in Los Angeles, led by patriarch David Johnson, who is ambitious and dreams of expanding their territory and influence. The Washingtons, a family of educators and activists in Atlanta, represented by Elizabeth Washington, a fierce and charismatic leader advocating for unity and resistance against oppression. The Martinez family, Mexican landowners caught in the middle, comprising of Carlos Martinez, who has historically supported both sides but must now protect his land. Inciting incident. A brutal incident occurs involving a confrontation between a police force enforcing white supremacy and a black community in a southern town, leading to violence and unrest. This event acts as a catalyst that ignites a call to arms among black families to unite and claim their rights. Act 2. Building the coalition. Strategic alliances. The Johnsons and Washingtons decide to ally with each other, along with other prominent black families across the South and West. They establish a council to govern their territories, aiming to expand their influence and protect against external threats. Conflict with Mexico. As the narrative unfolds, Mexico begins to view the territorial ambitions of the Black Coalition as a threat, especially with rising tensions over historical land disputes in California and Texas. Minor skirmishes break out, showcasing the fierce nature of the conflict. Cultural resistance. The story delves into the richness of Black culture, music, art, and communal bonds. As these families come together, character-driven subplots reveal personal struggles, love stories, and the fight for dignity against oppression. Act 3. The Clash of Powers. Climactic battle in Texas. A massive confrontation occurs in Texas where the coalition faces off against Mexican forces as well as white militias attempting to reclaim their territories. The groundwork laid by the characters leads to strategic maneuvers that reflect both historical tactics and modern sensibilities. Revelation of loyalty. In the midst of the battle, Carlos Martinez faces internal conflict as he decides where his loyalty lies. He ultimately teams up with the Johnsons and Washingtons, realizing that solidarity against oppression is paramount. Conclusion. Reclaiming America resolution. The culmination of efforts leads to a significant victory for the coalition, securing foundational territories for Black Americans. However, it's clear that while they've gained ground, the struggle is not over. Resistance persists. Epilogue. The story closes with the establishment of a new governance structure that welcomes diversity and strives for unity, while hinting at ongoing tensions with both white militias and the Mexican government as the characters pledge to maintain their newfound sovereignty. Themes and style. Use authentic urban language and energy, blending historical references with modern sensibilities. Explore how generational trauma affects the characters and how they confront it through resilience and community. A balanced narrative that portrays both the strength and vulnerabilities of the characters, making their stories relatable and powerful. By making it character-driven and engaging with real societal issues through a reimagined lens, this film could resonate deeply with both historical context and contemporary discussions. What do you think of this outline? Do you want to adjust any elements or add more specifics?
I do want to add some specifics, and I do want to adjust the outline. I needed to start wherever um, segregation stopped. So this started right then and that point, and I want a lot of dialogue, Southern dialogue, Black dialogue, and I wanted to start from that day, and I need a lot of dialogue, but just between the characters. If we need to enhance the characters, if you need me to tell you how these characters are going to be, we can go over that first before we start. But if you got it, then that's cool with me.
It sounds like you are looking to create a narrative that captures a specific moment in time, focusing on dialogue and character interaction within a post-segregation setting. Here's a basic outline for a scene that could work for your story. Setting. Date. Late 1960s. Shortly after desegregation laws are enacted. Location. A small southern town, possibly a diner or community center where both Black and white residents are starting to interact more openly for the first time. Characters. 1. Mabel, a strong, confident Black woman in her mid-negative 30s, who has been active in the civil rights movement. She's determined and hopeful about the future too. Henry, a middle-aged white man, somewhat.
No, I don't like that. I don't like that no bit. Please do not put this feminist take on this. This is about strong men, no women leads. I don't. No, that's not how this is gonna go. Do not tell me how no strong Black woman is gonna be no leader. That's not realistic. So go back to the drawing board. Keep the feminist shit out of it. This is a man's story. This is some heroic shit. So I need grit urban feel and keep the feminist shit out of it. I would like women in it, but do not make them powerful. Keep the shit realistic and stop doing this agenda for women. I don't want, come on now, stop it.
Thank you for your feedback. I understand your vision better now. Let's focus on a narrative that emphasizes strong male characters and has a gritty, realistic atmosphere while incorporating women in more traditional roles. Here's a revised outline and sample dialogue. Setting, date, late 1960s. Shortly after desegregation, location, a corner diner in a southern town, with a mix of patrons as tensions rise. Characters. 1. James Jimmy Carter, a strong, hard-working black man in his late 30s, recently back from serving in the military. He's seen the world and wants to provide for his family too. Earl Thompson, Jimmy's best friend, a passionate and resilient man in his early 30s who is outspoken about his views and is ready to take risks for change. 3. Willie, a skeptical white man in his 40s, who runs the diner. He's torn between tradition and the changing times, but ultimately wants peace in his establishment. 4. Nina, a waitress in her 20s who observes the interactions but doesn't play a central role. She's more of a supporting character with a gentle demeanor. Scene outline. 1. Opening dialogue. Jimmy and Earl sit at a table in the diner, discussing recent events in the community regarding desegregation. 2. Introduction of Willie. He approaches the table, trying to maintain neutrality but revealing his discomfort with the changing dynamics. 3. Tension builds. Other patrons voice their opinions, creating a charged atmosphere that leads to a confrontation. 4. Heroic moment. Jimmy stands up for what he believes in while dealing with hostility, reflecting his values and strength. 5. Conclusion. A moment of understanding amid the chaos hints at future possibilities, but the road ahead remains rocky. Sample dialogue. Jimmy, leaning back in his chair, looking around the diner. You see that, Earl? Folks don't know what to do with themselves now that we can sit anywhere we please. Earl, smirking. Yeah, well, let 'em fidget. They'll get used to it. Ain't nobody gonna push us back now. Not after the work we've done. Willie approaches the table, wiping his hands on his apron. You fellas mind keeping it down? This ain't a place for ruckus. Just trying to serve a meal. Jimmy, meeting Willie's.
Okay, let me ask you a question. I don't think you understand what I'm asking you. Why are they in the South, but it's a white waiter and it's black people? No, you have it wrong. You have it wrong. You're missing my whole thought process. Come on now. You're supposed to be helping my thought process, not hinder it, and not make it lack depth and in integrity. Come on, man. Come on. Why would it be a white person in the South with a shop where it's black people at? No, that's crazy. This is about segregation never happened. My bad. Segregation stopping never happened. Oh, you already. This is not helping us, dog. This is not helping us.
Thank you for your patience, and I appreciate your guidance. Let's refine the setting and characters to better align with your vision and the historical context of segregation in the South. Here's an updated version, focusing on an authentic dynamic without misrepresentation. Setting, date, late 1960s. During the Civil Rights Movement. Location, an all-black diner in a southern town, where newly desegregated spaces are causing tension in the local community. Characters. 1. James Jimmy Carter, a strong black man in his late 30s, recently returned from military service and determined to make a difference in his community. 2. Earl Thompson, Jimmy's.
Hold on. I don't think we figured out the whole movie before you starting basically tell the story. It's
I
supposed to.
understand, and I appreciate your patience. Let's work together to clarify the vision for the movie and build it step by step. Please share the main ideas or themes you want to explore, the characters, and how you imagine the story unfolding. This way, we can create a more focused outline without jumping too far ahead. What are the key elements you want to include?
Yes, I don't want to tell you what the characters are and all. I think you can cover that. I think we need to get more to what the story is about and the outline of the story first, and then you should be able to outline it and then fill in those characters and make my vision come true.
Got it. Let's focus on developing the core ideas and outline of the story first, setting the stage for the characters and their arcs later. Here's a proposed outline based on themes of struggle, resilience, and community in a segregation-era Southern setting. Story overview theme: the fight for equality in a segregated society and the personal growth that comes from standing together. Setting: a small Southern town during the late 1960s, a time when the civil rights movement is gaining traction, but tensions around segregation and racism are palpable. Story outline: 1. Introduction. Opening scene. Establish the
No, you got it wrong. This is what it's about. Okay, in real time, segregation ended. The blacks started going to, was it was not against the law to go into white areas and stuff like that, right? Which meaning the black businesses suffered because the blacks just wanted a good neighborhood, or they wanted the the good looking things, because the blacks was receiving all of the bad things. So they thought, oh, now we can go eat in white neighborhoods and we're live in white neighborhoods and eat at white neighborhood white establishments. They feel that they was whatever. I want to change it. That they didn't care about none of that. They didn't care about none of that because they had their own and they continued that. That's what the story needs to be about. The story needs to be about what that exchange was that's different in time. So stick to what really happened in time, but this alternate time. Use both. Like you kind of know what really happened, but just switch it this time as if it didn't go that way. I'm more intrigued with that than anything.
Thank you for clarifying your vision. I understand now that you want to explore an alternate history where, despite the end of segregation laws, the black community chooses to support and uplift their own businesses instead of leaving for white establishments. This
Yes.
story could delve into themes of empowerment, identity, and the importance of community. Here's a revised outline that reflects that premise. Story overview theme: the strength of community and self-empowerment in the face of societal change. Setting: a southern town in the late 90s.
Okay. Now that you know that about that, this is what I want to add on to it. I want to add. I want to revise. Let's revise. Okay. Now that you just heard that, what I said before, and you made it different, add this on to it. Okay. Fuck, I forgot it again. Oh my god, I hate when I forget shit. I forgot it. I forgot it. I forgot it. Just hold on. Let me think. Let me think for a second. Just do not stop recording me.
Absolutely. Let's refine the outline further with your additional insights in mind, focusing on deepening character dynamics, incorporating more specific challenges, and fostering a stronger sense of community resilience. Here's the revised outline for your story. Revised story outline. Theme: community strength, self-empowerment, and the celebration of identity in the face of societal change. Setting: a southern town in the late 1960s, navigating the transition from a segregated to an integrated society, but grappling with the pressure to assimilate into white culture versus uplifting black-owned businesses. Story outline. 1. Introduction. Opening scene. The town buzzes with energy as the end of segregation brings new opportunities. A scene in a lively barbershop introduces the vibrant community, showcasing black culture and camaraderie. We see.
No, see, you're saying the end of segregation. That's what happened in real life. This is an alternate world where we stayed segregated. I mean, we stayed separate. I think that's what the misconception of what's going on here. I don't know if I said it wrong because I'm doing talk to text, but what I'm trying to say is we stay segregated. And by black people staying with themselves, white people dwindle because they always needed black help.
It sounds like you're exploring an alternate history where segregation continued, and you're examining the implications of that scenario. In this version of history, if communities remained segregated, it could lead to unique social and economic dynamics. For instance, if black communities maintained their own local economies and resources while white communities faced challenges, it might
Yes.
create a complex relationship where both groups are dependent on each other in different ways. Such a situation could raise questions about identity, cultural development, and power dynamics. How would each community evolve under these conditions? Would there be different alliances or conflicts? Exploring these themes can lead to a deep and
You almost had it right until you tried to play the middle. No, 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 no. You try to make it equal. You try to make it. No, this is a unapologetic black experience. This is not equal across the board. So don't make this equal. This is a very biased situation here because in real time it went biased against my people. So I'm trying to do the opposite and to see what that would have looked like if we didn't segregate with white people and we stayed to ourselves. We kept our own businesses, our banks, our grocery stores, our economy, our money flowed through us. What would that look like? What would that utopia look like? Can you go more into that? 'Cause that's where my brain is at. My brain is at what if we didn't aid white America like we did at that time? Because I think going into their businesses and helping their businesses out only made them better because they was they was able to still look down upon someone. You know what I'm saying? What if we never took that road, segregate with them, let them let them make us their lower class? If we would have never done that, what would that look like? Can you give me that story?
I see what you're envisioning now. A scenario where black communities maintain independence and thrive without the influence or interference of white society, effectively
Yes.
creating their own economic systems, social structures, and cultural narratives. This alternative reality could showcase a form of empowerment and resilience in the absence of systemic oppression. In this scenario, imagine if after the Civil War, rather than pursuing a path of integration, the black community invested in their own networks, businesses, schools, and banking systems, creating vibrant, self-sustaining communities. Here's how this could unfold. Economic Utopia 1. Self-sustaining economies. Enclaves in cities could feature thriving businesses owned by black entrepreneurs, with goods and services circulated within the community. This could lead to the emergence of successful black-owned banks and grocery stores, creating a robust local economy. 2. Investment in education and innovation. Without the pressure of segregation, schools in Black communities could focus on catering to their specific cultural and intellectual needs, fostering innovation and entrepreneurship from a young age. Historical figures and contemporary thinkers might emerge, driving advances in technology, science, and the arts. 3. Cultural renaissance. Remaining segregated could lead to a cultural renaissance, where Black artists, musicians, and writers thrive, creating a rich tapestry of cultural expression that strengthens community ties and pride. This community-centric approach could produce iconic art forms, music genres, and literary movements that have a significant impact on global culture. Social dynamics. 4. Community cohesion. With a focus on collective well-being, families could prioritize mutual aid and support systems, reducing crime and fostering stronger relationships among community members. Events and gatherings could serve to bolster unity, heritage, and shared values. 5. Allies and solidarity. Black communities could also foster alliances with other marginalized groups, forming coalitions to advocate for their rights and mutual interests, rather than integrating into a system that historically oppressed them. This could lead to a broader movement for justice that operates outside of traditional power.
Hold on, hold on, hold on. I got a whole nother thought now. I need real-time statistics.
Hola, I'm all ears. What's on your mind?
I need real-time statistics on this one right here, right? Okay. In America, give me the
I
demographic.
can't provide real-time statistics, but I can help guide you on where to find current data or provide general information on various topics related to America. What specific statistics are you looking for? It could be anything from demographics, economics, health, crime rates, education, or something else entirely. Let me know how I can assist you.
I need to know the, all of the different types of white in America.
In the United States, the classification of individuals of European descent can be complex and varies based on factors such as ethnicity, nationality, and cultural identity. Here are some of the different groups often identified within the broader category of white or Caucasian in America. 1. Anglo-American refers to individuals of English origin, often considered the dominant ethnic group in the early United States. 2. Irish American. Many Americans can trace their lineage to Ireland, especially following significant immigration in the 19th century. 3. German American. This group is one of the largest ethnic ancestries in the U.S., with significant migration occurring in the 19th and 20th centuries. 4. Italian American. Italian immigrants largely settled in America from the late 19th century onward, significantly influencing American culture. 5. Polish American refers to Americans of Polish descent, with large communities established in cities like Chicago and Detroit. 6. Russian American includes those from various ethnic backgrounds in Russia, including ethnic Russians, Jews, and other groups. 7. Scandinavian American encompasses individuals of Swedish, Norwegian, Danish, Finnish, and Icelandic descent, particularly from migrations in the 19th century. 8. Greek American refers to Americans of Greek heritage, often influential in urban areas. 9. Hungarian American, a community resulting from a wave of migration in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. 10. Jewish American. Many Jews in America have origins in various parts of Europe, such as Eastern Europe, Germany, and more recently, Israel. 11. French American includes individuals of French descent, particularly in regions like Louisiana. 12. Spanish American refers to individuals of Spanish descent, particularly those in regions like New Mexico and California, often intertwined with Hispanic identity. 13. Scottish American includes people of Scottish ancestry, significant in the early settlement of the U.S. 14. Swiss American represents those with roots in Switzerland. 15. Other European Americans. This category may include individuals from various other European nations, including those from the Netherlands, Belgium, Portugal, and more. Socio-cultural considerations. Cultural identity. While all of these groups are generally categorized as white, they each have distinct cultural heritages, traditions, and histories that contribute to the American.
Okay, I understand that. But let's take it back in the beginning of America. Because all of those was add-ons in the beginning.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at the early history of America and the primary white groups and ethnicities present at that time. Colonial period, 17th century to early 18th century. 1. English. The predominant group among early settlers. English colonists established many of the original 13 colonies, such as Virginia, Massachusetts, and Maryland. 2. Scottish. Although fewer in number initially, Scots began to settle in the Americas in the 17th century, particularly in the Appalachian region. 3. Dutch. The Dutch established New Amsterdam, present-day New York City, and had settlements throughout New Jersey and Delaware. 4. Irish. While significant Irish immigration occurred in the 19th century, there were some Irish settlers present during the colonial period. 5. German. A smaller number of Germans began to settle in the colonies in the late 17th century, particularly in Pennsylvania. 18th century. French Huguenots. Some French Protestants fled to America to escape religious persecution. They settled in New York, South Carolina, and other colonies. Welsh. The Welsh immigrant community, although smaller, began to establish in the mid-18th century, especially in.
Okay, I don't know why you make me do this. I asked you from when America started, not the add-ons. And all you doing is going from 17 to 18. Like you're adding on. I don't want the add-ons. If America started in 1490 something, what were the so-called whites?
I apologize for any confusion in my previous response. Let's focus specifically on the early period of America, starting from the time of the first European contact in the late 15th century, early European contact and settlement, 1492 onwards. 1. 1492. Christopher Columbus. Columbus's voyages marked the beginning of sustained contact between Europe and the Americas. Columbus himself was Italian, Genoese, sailing under the Spanish flag, but he did not establish permanent settlements. 2. Spanish explorers, late 15th and early 16th century.
Okay, let me revise it. I said because you started talking about Christopher Columbus and stuff. I'm talking about when America gained its independence from the Brits. Like when America, the Constitution, and when they went against England, them. That's what I'm talking about. What were those whites? Give me those whites who was when it was a new country and they had their paperwork. What was the so-called whites? Because that's what the country is built off of. That's who was fighting. That's who won. Who were those guys? Who were the? Give me those. Don't add on what came after then. I want to know what the founders were. Those white guys.
Got it. You're asking about the founding figures of the United States around the time of independence from Britain and the establishment of the Constitution.
Yes.
Here's a focused overview of those key individuals and their roles in creating the new nation. Founding Fathers of the United States. The term Founding Fathers typically refers to the leaders who played significant roles in the American Revolutionary War and the founding of the United States. Here are some of the most notable figures. 1. George Washington. He was the commander-in-chief of the Continental Army during the Revolutionary War and later became the first president of the United States. Washington is often referred to as the father of his country. 2. Thomas Jefferson, the principal author of the Declaration of Independence in 1776. Jefferson later became the third president of the United States and is known for his advocacy of individual freedoms and rights. 3. Benjamin Franklin, a leading diplomat, inventor, and thinker. Franklin was instrumental in gaining French support during the Revolutionary War and was a key figure in the drafting of the Constitution.
Maybe you don't understand what I was trying to say. What I'm trying to say is, who were the Constitution?
I apologize if I misunderstood your initial question. Please feel free to clarify or
I
expand on
was
your
until you
thoughts,
stopped me.
and I'll do my best to provide the information you're looking for.
I was until you stopped me from talking and you just butted into what I was saying. What I was saying was, who who were they fighting for? What type of white person was in America? Who were they? Fuck, God damn, I fucked up again. I did.
For clarifying your question, it sounds like you're asking about the demographic and social background of the people who fought for American independence and were involved in the founding of the nation, particularly focusing on their identity as white Americans in that historical context. Here's an overview. Who were they fighting for? The individuals who fought for American independence and later shaped the new government were primarily wealthy white men who held significant social and economic power in colonial America. They were often landowners, merchants, or in professions that conferred status. Here are some key characteristics of their background. 1. Economic status. Most of the founding fathers were affluent and came from slave-owning backgrounds, particularly in the southern colonies. Their economic interests often influenced their political views. 2. Ethnic background. They were predominantly of English descent, but many were also of Scottish, Dutch, or other European ancestries because the colonies had attracted a mix of European settlers over time. 3. Education. Many were well educated, often attending prestigious institutions, and were influenced.
Okay, it's fair to say that they was Englishmen, right? Okay. You don't want to tell me the Pacifics, right? So tell me so tell me who was it? Who wasn't declared white at that time? Tell me all the ones who was it then, since you don't want to tell me who they was fighting for. Who did they write the Constitution? Who did they write the Constitution for? Who did they write the Declaration of Independence for? Who was they fighting for? Who had citizenship? Like, tell me that. Why is it so hard? Shit is crazy. Fucking AI don't want to give you the information now.
I understand you're seeking a clearer understanding of who was included and excluded in the context of early American society, particularly regarding the drafting of foundational documents like the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah,
Here's a
bitch.
breakdown of this complex issue. Those considered white at the time. In the context of 18th century America, the category of white largely included individuals of European descent, specifically, English colonists. The majority of the early American populace came from England, Scottish and Irish immigrants. Many Scots and Irish settled in the colonies and were
Scots
often
and
considered
Irish.
white by the standards of that time. Dutch, German, and French
Dutch and
settlers.
German.
These groups were also part of the colonial fabric. The designation of white was not static and changed over time, especially as different immigrant groups arrived and assimilated into broader societal norms.
Gotcha.
Those not considered white or recognized as citizens. Several groups were explicitly excluded from citizenship, rights, and the benefits of the new nation. 1. Enslaved African Americans. They were considered property and had no rights or citizenship status. The institution of slavery was deeply entrenched, particularly in the
That
southern
shit
colonies.
changed.
2. Indigenous peoples. Native Americans were often seen as outsiders to the new nation and had their lands taken from them. They were not afforded citizenship rights and were frequently viewed as separate from the emerging American identity. 3. Women. Regardless of race, Women did not have the same rights as men. They could
Don't
not
nobody care
vote,
about that.
and their
I
legal
don't care about
status
that
was
though.
often tied to their
Give a
fathers
fuck
or
about that.
husbands. The ideals of liberty and equality
fighting
did
over
not
this.
extend to women at this time. 4. Poor whites. While poorer white men could technically be considered citizens, their rights were often limited, especially in terms of political
Yeah, I know. If they ain't had
participation.
no
The
fucking
right to
power, no
vote and
land,
hold
they
office was
couldn't vote.
often
I
tied
get
to
all that.
property
That's not
ownership
what
and
I asked
wealth.
you.
The Declaration of
You giving me all this filler. I didn't ask for all that other information, man. Give me the information that I asked for, and don't give me information that I ain't asked for, man. Like, I don't need all that. I don't fucking need all that, man. I asked you a specific question, man. You going everywhere. Instead of answering my question direct, you still didn't do that.
I apologize for not directly addressing your questions. Let me simplify and provide straightforward answers. 1. Who was not declared white at that time? Enslaved African Americans, indigenous peoples, women, regardless of race, poor white men, in terms of voting and rights, particularly based on property ownership. 2. Who did they write the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence for? These documents were primarily written for white, property-owning men in the colonies. 3. Who were they fighting for? They were fighting for independence from British rule to secure rights and freedoms primarily for white, property-owning men. 4. Who had citizenship? Initially, citizenship was mainly extended to white, landowning men. Other groups, like enslaved individuals or women, were excluded. If you need more specific details on any of these points, feel free to ask.
That was the answer I was looking for. That was direct, and they gave what I asked for with no filler. Why can't you do that? Why I gotta go through all this just to get that? I understood that. All the other shit you was saying was dumb shit.
I appreciate your feedback and understand the importance of getting straight to the point. I'll make sure to provide direct answers going forward. If you have any more questions, just let me know, and I'll keep it concise.
Now I want to know, out of just those people that we just figured out who they are, what's the percentage of those people in 2023?
As of 2023, the demographics of the United States are diverse and continue to evolve. Here are some general statistics regarding the groups mentioned. 1. Enslaved African Americans. This group is no longer enslaved, but African Americans make up approximately 13 to 14% of the U.S. population. 2. Indigenous peoples. Native Americans and Alaska Natives represent about 2% of the U.S. population, while Native Hawaiians and other Pacific Islanders make up an additional small percentage. 3. Women. Women comprise about 50.5% of the total U.S. population. 4. Poor white men. This statistic is more complex, as economic status can vary widely. However, white individuals, of any gender, represent approximately 60 to 61% of the U.S. population as of 2023. These
See, there you go. I I asked you a specific question, and I wanted a specific thing, and you adding things. I just got through talking to you about when the forefathers, they didn't add in Italians, they didn't add in Greeks, they didn't add all these other, they didn't add in Jews to whites. So what I'm saying to you, give me the number in 2023 of what it was in when the Declaration of Independence was going. Don't add in the other so-called whites. Give me the whites what the Constitution was written for in now time. Don't add in the other things and talking about 60% because it's not 60%. And you know it's not 60%. It would be a lot lower because you can't add all the other add on whites.
I apologize for the confusion and appreciate your patience. To focus specifically on the demographics as they relate to the groups discussed, 1. White population, specifically the demographic historically regarded as white men. In 2023, the non-Hispanic white population in the U.S. is approximately 57% of the total population, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. 2. Comparison to historical context. When the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776, the vast majority of the population, especially those with rights and privileges, were white men, specifically landowners. It's difficult to give an exact percentage from then, but estimates suggest that about 70 to 80% of the populace were white men of various European descents. If you have specific demographics or further details you'd like without
I do have Pacific. Um, um, I do have Pacifics because we are
please
already
provide your
established.
specific question, and I'll ensure to give you a direct answer.
We already came up with the Pacifics. We already came up with the Pacifics. Don't add on the add-on whites that was added on. Like you can't add on the Irish. You can't add on the you can't add on the Italians. You can't add on the French. You can't add on none of those. Just the whites.
Understood. Based on your clarification, focusing on the specific demographic that the Constitution and Declaration of Independence were originally aimed at, i.e., white men of English descent, primarily landowners, without including other groups, we can summarize as follows. 1. Population in 1776. At the time of the Declaration of Independence in 1776, the population of the 13 colonies was around 2.5 million, with approximately 50 to 60% being white males, mainly of English descent. 2. Current population in 2023. As of 2023, the non-Hispanic white population, excluding other ethnic groups, is approximately 57% of the United States population.
I don't believe
However,
that.
if we're focusing on the demographic that aligns more closely with the early historical context, white, non-Hispanic men, it would represent a smaller percentage.
So you trying to tell me it's 57 million, right? So if you add on the add-on whites, you trying to say it's only going to be 64 million, 60 some million? That don't sound right to me. It sounds like it should be the other way around. It's, I think yeah, it's the other way around. It's the other way around.
I apologize for any confusion. Let's clarify the numbers regarding the white population more directly. As of 2023, the total U.S. population is approximately 333 million. If we
Oh,
consider the non-Hispanic white population, non-Hispanic white, approximately 57% of the total U.S. population equates to about 190 million people. When we include other ethnic groups commonly classified as part of the broader category of white or European descent, like Irish, Italian, etc., the percentage can increase. But since you're looking for the specific demographic historically aligned with early American governance, it's important to differentiate. If focusing solely on white Anglo-Saxon ethnonationality, often specifically referenced in this context, that would indeed drop the total, potentially aligning it closer to 30 to 35% of the total population or even lower depending on your exact criteria. If you
thank
have
you.
specific numbers in mind or further clarifications you'd like me to address, please let me know.
Okay, so tell me, what is it that I said to make it confusing for you?
Thank you for your patience, and I apologize for any misunderstanding. The confusion likely arose from 1. Clarifying definitions. The terms white and white ethnonationality include a broad range of groups today. When discussing historical context, it often refers primarily to Anglo-Saxon or early settlers, but these distinctions can be unclear when discussing modern demographics. 2. Population figures. I attempted to provide current demographic data, but I may not have been clear enough about what specific group you were asking about. Specifically, the population of white men at the time of the Constitution versus today's broader classification of whites. 3. Your focus on exclusions. You were asking for specific numbers without including other ethnic groups that have come to be classified as white, which I may have included unintentionally. If you can clarify what specific population group or historical context you're interested in, I'll provide the precise information you are seeking without any added details.
Well, I think I did. I told you the forefathers, who they fought for, who the Constitution and the Directors Declaration of Independence was written for. Who were they fighting for? At at the time, they wasn't fighting for France and Italy type of people. They were fighting for the English that was here. So that's why I'm saying you can't add. I want to who and what the United States was written for. That's them the white men that I'm talking about. I thought I was very clear at that.
Thank you for your clarification. I understand now that you're asking specifically about the demographic that the Founding Fathers and the documents like the Declaration of Independence and Constitution primarily represented. The Founding Fathers were primarily advocating for white Anglo-Saxon men. Specifically, they were fighting for the rights and interests of English-speaking, landowning white men. This group was predominantly composed of individuals of English descent and did not include other ethnic or racial groups at the time. Here are some points relevant to that demographic. 1. Population of the 13 colonies, 1,776. The majority of the population consisted of English descendants, with other European groups being a smaller minority. 2. Political representation. The rights and privileges outlined in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence were explicitly intended for this demographic, excluding women, enslaved people, and non-white individuals. 3. Modern context. Today, when we refer to demographics, white can include various ethnicities, which can complicate understanding who was specifically represented at the founding of the United States. Based on these distinctions, it's clear that you are referring specifically to the early Anglo-American settlers and landowners. If you have specific historical data you want net figures or percentages from that context, let me know how I can help further.
Bitch, you suck. You lame, my nigga. You lame. You lame.